Hey guys, it's Izzy,
And I'm Janie.
and we are Bino Culture. Today we'll be talking about a very unique topic that is new to this channel.
And it's about
Myths! So why myths? We wanted to focus on how different myths share the same beliefs and values, and how these can shape future generations through the stories and messages they tell.
You see, myths often have moral lessons that we can learn from, even for our generation today.
With the help of figurative language and the incorporation of cultural identities, we can determine tone as well as the mood, which allows us as the future generations to understand what our ancestors want us to learn from.
Well, in this episode, we are focusing on two very special and distinct myths. The first one comes from ancient Greece. Icarus and Daedalus tells the story of a son and a father desperate to escape, in which Daedalus creates wings made of wax to help him do so. However, why do you stare at me like that? You're creepy! However, after warning his son not to fly too close to the sun or too low to the water as they would melt or destroy the wings.
We can't even use that footage, you know, right?
We can.
What, with you going?
Yeah. Yeah,
No!
okay, do that, yes! It's fine.
Okay, fine. Icarus, filled with the adrenaline of freedom, began flying too high to the sun.
And when his father had warned him not to, he simply ignored it and his wings began to melt off. He fell into the water and his father could not do anything to save his doomed son.
So, basically, Icarus got deep fried because he said, "No, Dad, I'm gonna head out." Whereas, in the second myth from India, in the classic Indian epic, the Ramayana, the tale of Sampati and Jatayu tells the story of two vulture brothers, holding a competition to see who could fly higher than the other. Jatayu, determined to win, decided to fly too close to the sun. Sampati realizing what would happen if he did, shielded his brother from the sun, but in doing so, lost his wings. The purpose of stories like these is to inform and entertain people, as it provides an inner message to help us learn from the mistakes of the characters and the events that played.
Well, now I just realized that both of these stories end in tragedy and sacrifice, and now I'm sad.
Okay, Miss Emotional, grab a tissue, weekoid.
Shut up.
Anyways, these stories that were passed through generations allow us to understand our culture, as well as how and why they were created.
Well, how does that work?
You see, myths have different themes and contexts that allow us to fully grasp the idea of the story.
In Icarus and Daedalus, we see the tragedy of Icarus whose excitement has taken over his dad's warnings and eventually loses his life in the process. It is shown in the text. He watched in despair as his son began to lose height, and his despair turned to total anguish as he heard the terrified cry from his son, as he tumbled and spun past him towards the sea below. Since both Icarus and Daedalus were escaping from the labyrinth, Daedalus had no time to save Icarus from dropping down to the sea and just had to watch him falling. I also had a similar experience before, and honestly, I think it was even more tragic than this story. Yeah.
What was it?
I bought a bag of potato crisps, and someone passing by just hit my shoulder at the moment when I was about to eat my first piece. And yeah, so I dropped the whole bag and just had to watch it.
You idiot! Anyways, as well as in Jatayu and Sampati, we see the reoccurring theme of tragedy. This can be expressed in the phrase, but Sampati saved his brother's life by spreading across his wings and shielding Jatayu in the process. But Sampati lost his wings and has to remain wingless for the rest of his life.
Wait, are they dating?
Are you kidding me? No, they are not dating. They're literally brothers.
Brothers
Dating
can
what?
date. Brothers can date too.
Ignoring Janey, because of Sampati, his boyfriend Jatayu was saved and survived.
What? You just said boyfriend.
What? But Sampati lost something dear to him, and he would never find it again. Well, yes, dying is sad and whatever, blah blah blah. But in Indian culture, sacrifice is very important, as it symbolizes a way to connect to the higher power or even God.
Well, with you mentioning that, when you say that they can connect with a higher power, how does that losing something make you stronger?
See, I got confused with that, but then I remembered the celebrations I used to have back home with my grandparents, in which we would go to other people's houses and get the special food, and it was all because of the Hindu festival called Pongal. Yes, I know it sounds weird, but don't make fun of me, otherwise you're racism.
I wasn't even gonna say anything. Don't racism me.
Janey shush. Well, this actually reminded me of the whole reason of the sacrifices taking place during Pongal. These are to please the gods, as well as to feel closer to them, as they drew inspiration of strength and power. That's creepy.
Okay, we shall not talk about this again.
Okay then. Based on that, we can not only identify the theme, but also the audience. Given the moral lesson told in both myths, the audience can be seen in anyone, but is mostly targeted to young people or younger children, like the age gap to about 8 to 12. Yuck. Who can relate to these stories and learn from them. Here we can see in the excerpt, once when both the brothers were having a competition to determine who could fly higher. This can relate to most younger audiences as they see the playful and adventurous side just like Jatayu and Sampati, as in having a flying competition. These myths often have a major impact on today's culture and tradition because they often remind people of the olden days and make people to an extent nostalgic.
These special stories passed through generations can hold a special place in people's hearts as they often grew up with these type of stories.
These ancient stories allow us to look into the past and give the modern generation a glimpse of how these morals give lessons to be learned in an entertaining way,
often adding key elements of relatability and moralistic backgrounds. Additionally, myths also have distinct elements that give them an acute sense to what they mean. In Icarus and Daedalus, we see tension between opposing forces and fate and prophecy. And non-human characters can be also found, such as Minotaur. In the original text, Minotaur was described as a huge beast, half man, half bull, standing twice as high as any man. The Minotaur had horns as long as a man's arm, with sharp points, on which it skewered its victims. It had almost unbelievable strength and was constantly hungry.
Constantly hungry. Imagine the amount of food this fool had to order through GrabFood. Wait, did it even eat normal food?
No, of course it didn't. Minotaur was always hungry for human flesh, and this is why it was called a beast. No normal beast. No normal people eat human flesh unless they're cannibals. Okay?
Nevertheless, in Jatayu and Sampati, the most prominent element are supernatural characters, wherein the characters themselves are described as he was a demigod, and he was a close friend of King Dasharatha of Adoyaha. He had the body of a vulture. This tells us he's not of human nature, and he has the body of a bird. This also supports the type of myth this is, historical, as it explains the reasoning for Jatayu and Sampati's contribution to the story of Sita's kidnapping from the demon Ravana, and psychological, as we see the fall of Sampati and his sacrifice for Jatayu when he gets his wing destroyed in order to protect his brother.
Just like Indian myth, different elements can be found in Icarus and Daedalus too. First of all, tension between two forces. During Greek era, sun, moon, and stars represented gods and goddesses. Therefore, in the myth, Icarus flying closer towards the sun may be explained and shown as human beings approaching closer to the god's place, or going against the gods and disobeying them, which caused the death of Icarus as a consequence. Fate and prophecy can be also found in the story of Icarus. Before Icarus and Daedalus flew to the sky to escape from the labyrinth, Icarus was warned by Daedalus several times not to fly too close to the sun. Nevertheless, Icarus could not hold back his excitement, and as a result, wax on his wings started to melt and fall together with his feathers. This is related to fate and prophecy, as Icarus was already aware that he would be in a danger or may face death if he flew too close to the sun. However, he still took himself near to the sun and ended up falling into the deep ocean.
Another aspect that helps us in identifying the beliefs of their culture is through tone and mood, set in the stories they told. Initially, it was said to entertain people, but in Jatayu and Sampati, the tone is cautionary, because in the text, Sampati saved his brother's life by spreading across his wings and shielding Jatayu in the process. But Sampati lost his wings and had to remain wingless for the rest of his life. This is seen as cautionary, as it tells us the consequences and how this changed the lives of the two brothers, as well as the companionship between the two. This makes us feel considerate because we see how compassionate and caring the actions of Jatayu was for Sampati.
See, this is why you don't be a talking goose swan and fly too close to the sun.
I really can't stand you. This tells us that family was incredibly important, and Sampati was simply protecting his brother. Here we can sympathize with the characters, as the family values often relate to today's culture, where people older mean well with their actions and protect those closest to them. Not only is this shown in books, but I myself have an experience similar to this. My parents, and sometimes even my brother, was there to protect me and make sure I didn't do it again, and if I was doing something wrong, to make sure I was doing it right the next time. They would look out for me almost every day because they know that if I didn't, I would probably eat a baby. Or
eat a baby? Chill, okay. Okay. Okay, we can... Okay. Okay. We can also see in Icarus and Daedalus several types of mood in the story. For example, when Icarus and Daedalus were escaping from the labyrinth, the author used a suspense and thrilling tone that creates excitement and tense while readers are reading. Also, miserable and dreadful tone can be also found in the myth of Icarus. As the story tells about the tragic death of a character, it is shown in the text, as Daedalus flew alone below him, he saw a bright white feather flutter through the sky, and looking up watched in horror as more and more feathers detached themselves from his son's wings. He watched in despair as his son began to lose height, and his despair turned to total anguish as he heard the terrified cry from his son. In addition, figurative language is also very important for any story. Hence, usage of similes can be found in the story to describe the appearance of Minotaur, which can also be used as imagery. Standing twice as high as any man, The Minotaur has horns as long as a man's arm. This helps the readers to visualize and imagine what the Minotaur looks like.
In Jatayu and Sampati, we see a lot of imagery, and this can be seen through the excerpt. He had the body of a vulture. Not vulture. Not vulture.
Vulture!
Not vulture. He tried to tear away from Ravana with his huge, sharp talons, but he proved to be no match for the King of Lanka. This tells us that they did not have the body of a human and helps us visualize what the character looks like. Another example we can also see can be seen in form of a metaphor from the excerpt. Jatayu flew so high that he was about to be burned by the flames of the brilliance of the sun. The brilliance of the sun explains the beaming and the power of the bright sun, often referred to as gods in myths, recognizing its significance and importance to our daily life. So, Janey.
What now?
Remember that time I told you my grandmother said that if I cut my nails at night, a rat would come and eat my nails and then it would turn into a clone of myself?
She did what?
Well, apparently, I guess I didn't. Anyways, she did that and reminded me about how important it is to have cultures and traditions to be passed down to generations.
How did that remind you about how important it is?
Cultures, traditions, and past stories are important to maintain through generations because they help us learn about our present through our past.
Well, how can we connect that to our own culture?
Aha! I'm glad you don't understand because I'd be happy to help you understand. For example, when we see Jatayu and Sampati, if you remember, Sampati had his wings cut off by the sun.
Goodbye, Sampati's wings, we're dearly missed.
Janey, are you even listening?
Somewhat.
Okay, well, I'm offended. Continuing, Jatayu's carelessness was the downfall of not only him, but for his brother who sacrificed his wings to protect him. Honestly, if I was Sampati, I would have just said Jatayu burn, and boom, I have KFC. But the main part of the story is the usage of the sun. You see, often in Hinduism and in Indian culture, the sun, as well as the sun god, Aditya, presented life and was deemed the creator of the universe and the source of all life. As he provided warmth and light, and he's just so amazing.
Okay, you can stop walking over an ancient god man person now.
Leave me alone, I'm being funny. This can also relate to my own personal culture and experience, because often during festivals and celebration ceremonies, prayers represented the sun, and these flames, or most of the candles, are used around the altar, around the person, and they often symbolize the god, or symbolize the gift of life to please the god through the recognition of the sun.
Why is this actually interesting?
I just like you. Well, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching.
Izzy, that's not how we finish.
But, I'm tired. I just want to go full Icarus.
Izzy, no!
Ugh, fine. How do we end these things anyway?
You truly are useless. Just know that. Well, since Izzy's basically disabled, I am yet again forced to do anything, I guess. So, that's all, guys, for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna make some wax wings now, and I guess I'll give them to Izzy. Have a good day, afternoon, night, morning, breakfast, dinner, and bye!